show for you. It's hard to get away from the dominating story of today, even though there's a lot of local stuff happening. You just heard Mike Pomp mention Motorcycle Bike Week getting underway in the Lakes region. A lot of our music brand stations from the Pulse are Benny Media, and of course the Pulse of NH Family. Frank and all the stations, the Wolf, and we'll all be up there, right? Today, J Dog? And just a reminder, even though today we don't have the sunny, nice, summery stuff, that hopefully get back to the warmer temperatures tomorrow. Keep an eye, as we heard from the New Hampshire State Police last week, brought to you by Auto Fair and the team over there, Jason LaCroix and the team, and our state police, the Motorcycle Week, Bike Week. A lot more bikes. We've seen too much distracted driving. I was on the coming back from, I forget where I was the other day, going into one of our traffic circles, and there were two different accidents, broad daylight, because people don't know how to yield. They're driving too fast, brakes ahead of them. Also, construction work, a lot of road work, Route 4, Northwood area coming over. If you're on there, 101, there's a lot of road work out there, 95, 93, 101. So expect it could be everything from lawn cutting to trees to the construction work. People need to pay attention to the move over laws. They need to slow down, and they need to pay attention. Hey, we have a lot going on this morning and a big focus. President Trump returning to the White House for secure communications for the latest between Israel and Iran and the United States. Our poll question up on X this morning at the Pulse of an H12 results for you in a moment. The poll question is, do you think the United States will get more involved militarily in this battle between Israel and Iran? Yes or no? Of course, we're moving a big naval presence to the Middle East, and we'll have more on that. We're going to hear from some of our regulars on the latest. But Paul Steinhauser, New Hampshire's own, but he reports nationally for Fox News and Fox News Digital. I had an interesting story yesterday about one of the Democrats running in the first congressional district here. Paul Steinhauser joins us out of the gate. And no doubt, Paul, it was rather an interesting G7 backdrop in Canada, of all places, to talk about tariffs. But certainly the dominating story this morning is the Middle East, the president returning to the White House before dawn this morning. Good morning, Paul. Yes, and we're going to have Dean Spiliotis in a moment, Southern Hampshire University, looking at this from a political science point of view. But Paul, it's interesting, the coverage of this, because you and I know, and it's amazing what's still going on in the war in Ukraine, but President Trump and the administration or his team were trying to negotiate, trying to get some kind of deal with Tehran on the nuclear enrichment. President Trump now has changed his tune coming out of the G7, saying, hey, I wasn't ready to call, Tehran. They know how to get a hold of me. I'm paraphrasing. Um, they should have taken the deal on the table. Now we're looking for an end result here, not like an interim thing. So I'm almost wondering, do the Israelis in the United States now feel that they've sort of taken enough teeth out of the tiger, that Tehran is more vulnerable, and will China and Russia stay out? Because that's what concerns me, is this getting into a broader conflict or war, and that should concern a lot of people. Yeah, and interesting, Paul, with all the other discussions, isn't it amazing how news works and flows? Just a week or so ago, it was all coming out of Los Angeles. The protests turning into riots, National Guard, Gavin Newsom, President Trump, unrest. Then we had, last weekend, there was a ton of stuff happening. But really, this story now, really seems to be grabbing a lot of the attention. And I've not seen, this is another interesting story, Paul. You'll be aware. We have a very divided view of Israel and the Middle East here at home. We've seen the college campuses, we've seen the anti-Semitism in college campuses, we've seen a very divided public when it looks at Gaza. The Free Palestine stuff. We've had at least one assassination here of that couple a number of weeks back, leaving the Jewish museum at night in Washington from the Israeli side, about to get married. So we've seen a very divided front here, mostly on the left side. I don't mean to get a political, but on the Democrat side of how to view this Israel situation. So things are quiet right now. I don't see a lot of congressional leaders, a lot of Democrat leaders nationally. I know Pete Buttigieg was here yesterday. I was going to get your take on that real quick, and I'll let you go. But I haven't heard a lot of big national names weigh in one way or the other. Do we support Israel? Do we stand with Israel? The Trump administration is very clear on this. Yeah. But you see where I'm going here. Yeah. All right, Paul. Great stuff, Paul. And real quickly, Mayor Pete Buttigieg, former presidential candidate, member of the Biden administration, transportation secretary in New Hampshire yesterday. I guess testing the early presidential waters? Question mark. All right, Paul. Thank you for the time. Yeah, we this is a very, as I said yesterday, there were so many stories coming out of the weekend. It really started at the end of the week with the Israeli attack on the nuclear targets inside Iran, and then the weekend. But really, this is getting to be a situation where, and I'm trying to read the tea leaves as much as anyone else. And it seems to me that one thing is very clear, and I'm going to say this whether you like it or not. I'd have this debate all day long. Say what you want about Israel, say what you want about Israel's position in the Middle East, how they're surrounded. But the point is, in terms of countries that want to obliterate them, starting with Tehran and Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah, you name it. But Israel has the best intelligence by far of any nation on earth. The Israeli intelligence is amazing. And I think if you look at the population, I don't know if you saw in the video of people evacuating Tehran, I think they have more penetration inside Tehran. If you look at some of the surgical strikes that Israel made on apartment buildings to get like the top nuclear scientist and get his unit only, or you look at some of the other strikes, they've taken out the top military leader for the mullahs in Tehran, the regime in Tehran and Iran, and he just replaced the other leader they took out, and they're hitting strategic sites with incredible precision. Um, Iran is responding. They did hit kind of, I think they damaged the equivalent of what you'd call the Israel's Pentagon, but their hope is to get any of these missiles, which are non-nuclear, through the missile defense system in Israel. And now Israel's turning up to the next level of beyond the Iron Dome to intercept these missiles. When they fire 100 into Israel, there've been fatalities. I think a couple dozen Israelis, but Iran is just trying to get anything into Israel. Israel is strategically picking apart what they want. And I'm just going to point this out, not to sound like someone who's spent maybe years of my life through interest or academic or otherwise, or media, as well as the time as a civilian spent at the U.S. Army War College National Security Seminar, which was really the treat of my adult life. And I mean that. If you look at the naval presence that we, the United States, regardless of what you think about what we should or should not be doing, if you look at the naval presence we're sending to the Middle East, the Nimitz, what's underneath it with nuclear subs, the air presence. And I'll tell you something that one of our callers right here at home, a story that is not making news here in New Hampshire on any of the media. And we had a caller yesterday, J Dog from Concord, who pointed this out. And I saw it yesterday in Lee, New Hampshire. By the way, I was stopping in to say hi to a buddy at 4 on 4, James, who owns the golf range 4, like when you're playing golf 4, but it's on Route 4 in Lee, right after the traffic circle. And we could see fighter jets yesterday afternoon going right over. And to see some of the we have some of the most modern U.S. Air Force refuelers, the strata tankers, the new ones, right at Pease, a whole fleet of them. And these are strategic to supporting any long range military operation, even if we're not on the offensive. So those jets have to be fueled. So I've seen since last Thursday and Friday increased presence up in the air, whether it's training, the refueling mission of jets coming in and out, or the refuelers going to places to refuel these jets. It's amazing to see that in, basically Portsmouth, Pease, Newington, New Hampshire, you can see the U.S. military, the might, really the incredible might, the power of the U.S. military operation. But make no mistake about it, there's two ironies that someone could do a story on here in a very positive way for the men and women who work at the shipyard, who support these nuclear submarines that come in and out for like a year at a time to be reserviced and overhauled. These nuclear submarines that come right in and out of Portsmouth, New Hampshire, these are incredible. Well, they call them boats in the Navy. These nuclear submarines are incredible vehicles in the ocean anywhere they're deployed, because one of those nuclear submarines has enough firepower on it. If you look at the Tomahawk missiles and what they have on it, whether if they're nuclear tipped or not, the missiles, what they can do, the ballistic submarines, nuclear, right out of Pease, and then you have right out of Portsmouth Naval Shipyard, and then you have the Pease refueling mission. Rather remarkable that right here we have we're a cornerstone or a leg of the stool of our military, Air Force, Navy, you name it, because these fighter jets will come in and out. The refuelers, we have the modern class of refuelers. Some of the refuelers before the straddle tankers, the new ones, were 40, 50 years old that you see flying around Pease doing the training during the day. So it's pretty amazing. Some commentary, but side note on what you can see here of what's going on in the world. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of Nature. Come back. Dean Spiliotis, Southern New Hampshire University. J-Dog, we're going to get results from our poll yesterday in a moment. But our question this morning, do you think the U.S. will get more militarily involved in the Middle East now that this battle's going on? Yes or no? And will it simmer down soon? Let's hope. Back in a moment. One, thank you. Wanted to bring in one of our regular experts and contributors early this morning, given the really the events locally and globally and internationally, really between with the Middle East, what's going on with Israel and Iran. And Dean Spiliota, Southern Hampshire University political science professor, joining us an hour earlier this morning for some really historic and academic perspective here. And I think this is rather, I know it's rather, in fact, in some respects, and I could tell you why I think it's a little bit close to unprecedented, but I'll come back to that. Dean, good morning. People forget or they never know, and it bugs me even about our own New Hampshire history. I did my show Friday at Geno's in Portsmouth. We were talking about some of the early great Portsmouth in our New Hampshire history, but Israel does have a history of striking nuclear targets, Iranian targets. And one was outside, I think it was outside of Baghdad, actually, even though it was not in Tehran. But they've done this before to basically stop and prevent, make sure that Iran or Tehran does not have a nuclear bomb. Israel, people don't know the level of nuclear arsenal that Israel does possess. But the other funny point I just have to mention, it's not funny, but the latest Top Gun Maverick movie with Tom Cruise that sort of made the comeback for movie theaters a few years ago with the late Val Kilmer, the whole storyline is Maverick in the U.S. taking out advanced, nuclear enrichment sites in Tehran in the mountains. So I'm just looking at this story now with Trump coming back from the G7 early and what's going on really in terms of Tehran, Israel, and the United States. And I'd want to kind of stop there and let you give us your take on how serious this is, how big this is, how not big it is. What are the likely outcomes? Could it get worse? Could other countries get involved? Take it away, Dean. Well, Dean, I think you and I would agree. Although I've seen mixed messages or stories. If I go back during the Obama administration, there were some tense moments, and I even remember the late Colin Powell dealing with Israel on some stuff. In other words, would they make a big move anywhere without our tacit approval? In other words, and on this one here, there's no way that I think this could have happened without the United States knowing about they're attacking the sites in Iran, going into Friday morning. But the question is going to be, does the United States get as involved as you just suggested in that mountainous region? We're sending quite a fleet. We've done that before into the Middle East. I think we deployed the Nimitz out of the South China Sea. So we're going to have a heavy presence there. And the question is, and I can't read this. I want to know your take. I get the feeling because and I know that the Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump have had a better than good relationship, and it goes back a long time. As Netanyahu said the other day, people forget the symbolic move that Trump did on moving the U.S. embassy in Israel. He's been a staunch supporter. He's been very clear on where the United States stands. I think more than recent presidents, to be honest with you. So my point is, we have a divided public here at home that I want to come back to. You've seen this stuff on college campuses. You and I have discussed this before on my show, Dean Spilio to Southern Hampshire University. My question to you is, I just get the feeling that on this one here, because the Trump team or the administration was dealing with Tehran recently on trying to negotiate something on the nuclear side, because they were throwing that out for the past few months. They were also talking, while they're trying to deal with something in the Ukraine and that war, they were talking to Tehran. I think President Trump has gone to the point now he's almost in Israel's camp, meaning he's sort of giving up on Tehran's good word. And I think the U.S. and Israel feel like they're all in, that they can break the back finally, take the teeth out of the Iranian tiger here with anything really strategic in terms of their weaponry, and sort of force them to a deal. Do you get that sense now or not? Do you, do you, you're not in the prediction. I had a buddy the other day they go to these betting sites on everything, these betting sites to predict the markets and futures. If you had to say, Dean Spilitos, do you think President Trump in the U.S., do you think we give that green light to help them take out that final piece? Because that would be an overt military act. And I think the only way we could do that is if China and Russia stood down and allowed it. Do you think he will? Do you think he will or not? Yep. Yep. Th- There's another thing we haven't even discussed, because I could do this for 2 hours. This foreign policy stuff is kind of the bailiwick of my time in college and after. Is China more than Russia? I think China exerts a lot of influence on Tehran, or could, on back channel, and I'm wondering if they don't get them to kind of flinch here before that comes. And the last point is, you mentioned Trump's divided base. I know Tucker Carlson. I know he doesn't have a TV show anymore, but he's floating around on social media. Yeah. And those folks are sort of bashing Trump for saying, you're working to get involved in this military stuff. But the point is, the public here at home, particularly among the Democrat Party and the base, younger people, college students, you've seen the proclivity of these protests being really getting to the point of anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, blaming Israel. They're the problem. Not talking about October 7th. Looking at the number of Palestinians who've been killed in Gaza. The whole situation in the Gaza Strip, Free Palestine, that whole thing. And you look at Israel getting so aggressive now with Tehran. I get it militarily. I understand what could happen. I really do, if Tehran and Iran ever got a nuclear bomb. I know what their goal is in life in terms of a regime, to obliterate Israel and eventually the West, but people here don't seem to know that. And I know what the goal of Hamas is, but a lot of other folks here, particularly younger folks on college campuses, or some professors, no offense, they don't know that. And we've seen a very divided public when it comes to Israel here at home in America, especially on the Democrat side. Do you agree or not? Right. Thanks for going early and going, Dean. Real quickly, Pete Buttigieg in New Hampshire yesterday afternoon, I believe Nashua. Early face of the Democrats for the next cycle or not? Yep. Interesting. Thank you very much, Dean Spilliot of Southern Hampshire University. We're going to take a look at the markets, the economy, and how it's reacting to kind of another day of the tensions, uncertainty here in the Middle East. Doug Tengden, a lot more. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an H. J-Dog, our poll question today up on X, the Pulse of an H is, do you think the U.S. will get more militarily involved in this battle between Israel and Tehran, yes or no? Our results yesterday, I think, had to do more with the mood in American cities. J-Dog? Yeah. I think these polls have been actually, if I had to guess, public opinion have been pretty reflective, J-Dog, of what I would guess. These I think they're pretty accurate. A lot of people taking part. Thank you very much. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an H. Jack, Heath, J-Dog on the boards. We're back in a few. We are back on this Tuesday morning. I'm only joking. I'm only laughing a little bit just because this weather doesn't seem to want to get into a pattern of several nice, dry, sunny days with temps in the 80s. But hopefully we get back to that tomorrow. I just want to take a quick look. It could be, I don't want to get our hopes up on a Tuesday, but we do have some kind of today. What you see is what you get. Not a high degree of constant rain, but some showers and cloudiness today for your Tuesday. Overcast, if you will. Tomorrow, though, we're going to get warmer, up to about 78 for a high on the coast. Still a little more cloudy than you'd like, but Thursday and Friday and Saturday and J-Dog, I'm finally looking at a picture. Do you know that, J-Dog, have you checked this out, the long-range forecast for next week? You ready for this one, J-Dog? Tuesday the 24th. Doesn't seem like a big date, right? Tuesday, a week from today. You ready, J-Dog? On the coast. That means Concord, you might be warmer. 94 for a high, J-Dog. I'm looking long range. Now, this could change. But the days leading up to next week, J-Dog, coming out of give me a moment here. I just want to kind of get into the weekend here. Okay, so this weekend, okay, let's just say this, put this way. Starting really Thursday of this week, near 80, 88 for a high. Sun and clouds right through next week. But next week, J-Dog, Monday, they're going to say it. This might don't they say a heat wave is 3 days of? Okay, so next Monday near 90, Tuesday 94, and Wednesday 90. Next week 89. Unless I have Portsmouth, New Hampshire, not Virginia. So next week we got a big warm up and more sun. So we're kind of one more day, and then I think we're getting into what you and I would call, and this weekend looks pretty good for the first time in a while. Some of the other news stories before we check in on the economy. The New Hampshire House, I don't know if you caught this yesterday, New Hampshire House voted to ban cell phone use in New Hampshire public schools. Ban cell phone use in New Hampshire public schools by the students, presumably. Of course, the teachers, should be teaching. But yeah, how about that, huh? Also, we're seeing Bike Week, Motorcycle Week, Bike Week getting underway. More motorcycles coming into the region, so we're going to see more of those. And please, I just have to say this because it has to do with local lives. Could be someone you love, could be you. I am seeing, and we've seen this in our state police segments brought to you by AutoFair, and we just had the head of the Special Enforcement Unit, I think Sergeant, I apologize. I have no doubt he will be lieutenant someday, LaPointe. Last week, he's also head of the motorcycle unit. He was on Thursday talking about this. I personally, when I'm driving, back and forth, Route 4, 95, 93, less so than 101 these days, I am seeing, especially in the areas where you're coming up to a work site and you'll see yellow construction, repaving, construction vehicles with the lights. They're doing their thing. They have things clearly marked. You'll see the cones in the road. They sometimes will divert lanes to get, while they're paving one side of the road during the day and then pave the other. I'm seeing driving way too fast, way too distracted, just really bad driving. I'm seeing going into traffic circles, people literally, I think if you did a test, and you stop motorists, can you tell me what the word or the term yield means? Yield. I feel like I'm doing a Jeopardy hosting. Define the word yield. I'm telling you, a lot of drivers couldn't even tell you what it means because they don't even know how to drive when they go into a traffic circle. They keep going full bore. They don't yield to the traffic in the circle. You're supposed to yield. That means stop if you have to. That means you give way the right of way to the vehicle ahead of you. Oh my goodness. Unbelievably bad driving out there. I said to someone I was with the other day in the car, because I saw a local police stop. It was an accident on the side of the road. They had one or two vehicles and a police cruiser. I don't even think the officers feel safe anymore out there. People don't know what the heck it means to move over. They keep going. The blue lights are visible from a half mile away, night or day. The officers are doing it right. They're very well trained. State troopers, same thing. The blue lights are out there, and people just whiz right by. a foot or two from you're supposed to move over. It's a law. Move over well ahead of time. And by the way, there's another amazing feature on your vehicle. You ready? I see this one all the time. You ready? Day or night, there's an amazing feature despite all the technology on your vehicle. Guess what it is? It's called a blinker. It's a blinker. It's amazing. If you're going to turn left, you can put your blinker on left before you turn. You're going to turn right, you put your blinker on. It's a courtesy to the vehicles in front and behind you to let them know which way you're turning. Sometimes you see the cyclist out there biking, not motorcycles, and sometimes motorcycles. They'll put up their hand sometimes to let you know they're going to turn. But in your vehicle, I don't know if you knew this, in your car, your truck, your vehicle, there's an amazing invention. It's called the blinker. Use it. There's a blinker. Use it. I can't believe the bad driving I'm seeing out there. Middle of the day, ignoring, moving over, yellow lights, blue lights, red lights, move the heck over. And even if you see a car broken down on the side of the road, move over. There could be a mother or a young father getting a kid out of the vehicle. Move over. And how about this one? Slow down. Sergeant LaPointe, who was on last Thursday, New Hampshire State Police segment, the only segment in the country that does this every week, with the public safety is right here. Good Morning, New Hampshire, the pulse of an age. He said the Sunday before, he said, Jack, the Sunday before I was just out working on patrol, clearly marked police cruiser, me, he said. Sunday morning, broad daylight, late morning, car whizzes by him on the right, 2-lane highway going 106 miles per hour. 106 miles per hour. No excuse, none. 106 miles per hour. What are you kidding me? So yield, blinker, slow down. Yeah, that blinker is real easy, by the way. Just click it left or up for right. It's amazing. You can tell someone behind you can save an accident or ahead of you. Oh, wow. I got a blinker. Never use it because I'm lazy. Use it. Oh my goodness! More bikes out, more motorcycles this week. So please be careful out there. Slow down. Give them a wide berth. Sometimes you'll see a couple of motorcycles. It's not just on the highway. A lot of these motorcycles, and when they're here for Bike Week this week, they go all over the state. Seacoast. You'll see them Western Monadnock out near Dublin, Monadnock, Peterborough, Mount Washington, Breton. North Country, North Conway. They're everywhere. So please slow down. Pay attention. Wow. All right. Just some public safety tips. We come back. We're going to check in with Doug Tengden. Look at the markets and the economy as the tensions between Israel, Iran, and now maybe the United States heat up. Back in a moment. No sugar is the best answer for your coffee. All right, we are back on this Tuesday morning and wanted to look at the markets. We're going to hear from Doug Tengden, worldmarketadvisors.com. We bring in Doug. He's a regular on Mondays. I bring him in when we have big developments, especially on the economy, because of impact of things like what's going on between Israel and Iran and Iran and Tehran and maybe the U.S. But so far, the oil gas market has been more insulated with the uncertainty between Israel and Iran, but it may change because this conflict is not over. Doug wanted to get a check on the markets here at home because President Trump left the G7 summit and the trade was on the docket and maybe a deal between Great Britain, the U.S., and other trade deals. But really, the situation in the Middle East seems to be dominating everything. So I wanted to get an update on the markets today on this Tuesday, Doug. Right. Interesting. I guess one of the questions I wanted to ask is, I don't know if you're a big fan or not. He's obviously a very sharp, talented person, but JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon throws out these when he talks to, I guess, their clients or his portfolio people, he'll throw out this doomsday report. He's always been a doomsday person, more so than Warren Buffett. And he's very down, saying we haven't seen the real price impact of Trump's tariff stuff, or what's coming. And yet I talk to home builders, I talk to consumers. We have experts on the show. We had a Bank of America Institute expert just a week or so ago. And yeah, there are people that are thinking we're going to see a slowdown. There are people wondering if the Fed's going to lower the rate. But overall, the consumer and the American economy seems resilient. And every time you hear that the markets are going to be down, a few days later, some event markets are up near a record high. So, what do you think of when Jamie Dimon throws out these kind of glasses of cold water about what's coming and sort of very dour? What do you? I'm just curious if you're a Jamie Dimon disciple or follower or critic or what. Yeah. Yep. Doug, I was talking to someone the other day, and age and stage in life matters, and we have a moment or two. Doug Tangden, World Market Advisors. I don't want to get to your personal counsel or advice, but I hear mixed messages from people that are more obsessed with the stock market than me. I'm more of a real. I'm more fascinated with real estate and things like that, or brick and mortar, than I am a stock person. But um, markets drive our economy to an extent, or they react to it. My question is, he was saying, and he threw out the names like Fidelity Advisors and all that. They're very down on the stock market right now. They don't like. This is what he told me. It might be wrong. Maybe it was just his advisor. Very concerned about the uncertainty here and around the world. And then I hear other people saying, "Oh, the market's a great place to be in. Yeah, it's definitely good long term." But do you think our stock market overall is inflated in terms of value, or do you tell friends if someone said, "Doug, I just sold a home, been in it a long time, got a couple 100,000, it's going a big part of my retirement. Should I?" Because someone told me, you can go to a bank now and get a CD rate, maybe at 4.5%. You get some of these more secure fixed annuities for a couple of years that are very secure. You get a penalty if you take them out early, but maybe 5 or 6%. Is the market, if you're looking for that conservative 6-5% return or near it, is the market a good place to be in right now? What do you tell someone if they said, "Doug, we just sold our home. What do you think?" I know diversity is the good thing, but do you have a feeling on them? Are you bullish or not on the market? Right. Right. Hmm. Yep. 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 All right. All right. Good stuff. Thank you, Doug. We come back. We'll talk about gold and silver and all this and a lot more. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an Age. We're back in a few.